Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching. Welcome to the Redeem Sports at the King's Palace TV here in our studios in Katy, Texas. Today, we're going to be talking a lot of basketball. As we all know, the NBA 2022 Finals is happening today, beginning from, in a few minutes from now, we're going to be kicking off the Game 1 featuring the Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors. And it promises to be an amazing must-see sports TV. Now, to do the analysis with me in the studio are two very diehard fans of basketball. To my right, I do have Unduka Akwe.
Thank you, Dimeji, for having me today.
You're welcome. Nice having you today. To my left, I also have another diehard fan, Lillian Akwe.
Thank you, Dimeji, for having me today.
And I must say this, they're married, okay? So they're a couple. So whatever battle that happens here stays in the studio today. All right. Now, before we get right into it, because the NBA Finals Game 1 begins very soon in a few minutes, we'd like to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube or other social media platforms, please go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button. That way you get notification, you get notified when we put out content. In the meantime, please sit back, relax, go nowhere, gather your friends and family. We will be talking a lot of NBA Final NBA Finals basketball today. We'll look forward to having you shortly. Thank you. Sit back, relax, and we'll be back shortly.
Due to the COVID pandemic, the Maracana Sports Center have been put on hold, but now we are back. Our Sports Outreach Church, the Maracana Sports Center, resumes on Sunday 6th of February 2022 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Maracana Sports Center is our sports outreach church reaching out to the community fellowshipping through sports and the Word of God. Sports service holds every Sunday at 6 p.m. on the TKP Sports Arena. So we are inviting men, women, boys and girls across all ages to come and hang out and play all sporting activities while connecting with friends and families. Join us starting February 6, 2022. For more information, please call Coach Addy at 832-731-7714.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to the Redeem Sports at the King's Palace TV here in Katy, Texas, where we're talking the NBA 2022 Finals, Golden State Warriors versus the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm going to jump right into it. Lillian, I was very impressed when I was told that you're a huge basketball fan. And a lot of times, I know women are, we have a lot of female basketball fans, but especially of African descent. Typically it's soccer, if at all, any sports.
Right.
What was it for you? What actually brought out that interest in basketball to begin with?
Well, thank you, Dimeji, again. I would say, like you rightly mentioned, basketball is not a thing, I would say for African women. And growing up, it was more, even with basketball, I used to hear about the Jordans and the Kobe. So when I came to this country some 17 years ago, in graduate school, I had some time in my hands, after my work in school, and I would tune to the TV to, look for some sports game to watch. And majority of the time, it will be either football or basketball. And with basketball at the time, there was this team, Miami Heat, and there was a player called Dwayne Wade. Ended up being one of my favorite players. And just watching this young 6'3" guard, how he maneuvers himself into the rim and scores against the big, I'm like, how does this guy do it? You don't see that much physicality, but you see the finesse, you see the intellect in basketball. That actually the IQ, that did, drew my attention so much. And then overall, just seeing how they win games. They will be down by 20 points, but how they come back and win that game, it's amazing. And fast forward, my basketball interest even grew stronger when I got to know about Steph Curry. Steph, it's one of the great things about him is his faith. And there was a time when he had to sign, a basketball deal shoe with Nike. And one of the things that he actually does on his basketball shoes is he writes scriptures on his shoes. And, just getting him, his favorite scripture I got to know was Philippians 4:13 that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And just seeing how, doing that, I was like, wow, okay. So, as a, sports superstar, you're not shy of your faith. But, one of the things that happened was Nike would not let him do that. And he stood his ground. And he had to move to Under Armour. That led him to do that. That alone was just, so emulating for me to see that. And I can now tell my boys that do not be shy of, of your faith. And then just looking at how his leadership, how he changed the game. I mean, nowadays you see everybody want to shoot threes. The number of threes that's been shot in the NBA, it's, due to the fact that Steph Curry, he changed the game, and he does it with so much joy. He's not the Shaquille O'Neal that is, 7 foot, or the LeBrons that had that much physicality, but he was able to use his 6'2" ability to impact the game, which means that tells me that you don't have to be super tall. I mean, of course, to be tall, but
I mean, you have the like of Nate Robinson that played for
exactly.
the Celtics with Shaquille at some point.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great story. Great story. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Unduka, was her basketball knowledge a deal breaker for you before again, we're just getting started, right? So I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of your family with basketball. When you were dating, or when you were courting, as some people would say, was her knowledge of basketball a deal breaker, or you just happened to find out she was a huge fan?
Actually, I found out she was a huge fan while we were dating.
Nice.
It was Valentine's Day, the year we were going to get married, and I was trying to impress her with all these wonderful dinners and all of that. And so I came over to pick her up from her apartment for the dinner, and she was like, "Where are we going?" And I said, "Well, it's a surprise." And to my surprise, she said, "Well, if you really want me to enjoy this day, my favorite player, Dwayne Wade, is playing tonight against OKC." And then they had Kevin Durant, Westbrook, Ibaka, and all these really good players. And I want to watch that instead. And I've made a really good dinner. She knew my favorite thing to eat at that time was plantain and egusi soup. So she had that already made and all of that. And we ended up spending the rest of the evening watching that game. And she was very appreciative. And I was like, and the crazy thing about her basketball is there will be times in the game when Miami Heat is down, and she will be like, "You know what? You need to take this guy out, and you need to put this guy in. And if you do that, the game is going to turn around." And 2 seconds later, the coach calls the timeout that does exactly that. So I knew that she was really a big fan, and it makes having dialogues very interesting. As you're going to find out, we can get very spirited,
It'll be interesting to watch
basketball.
In your living room. Never a dull moment. Awesome. All right, so that was a great icebreaker. Lillian, to you, over the years, basketball has evolved. Basketball has become a lot more international and global sports compared to the likes of soccer. For so many years, soccer has been in the forefront, but basketball just used to be in the likes of Argentina or Spain or possibly Brazil and the US and Canada, but now it's a global sport. You see the likes of Giannis Antetokounmpo, born in Greece, but of Nigerian descent. You see Ime Udoka, who is actually the coach for the Boston Celtics. You see the likes of Masai Ujiri and Serge Ibaka, and you see the likes of Joel Embiid from Cameroon. Actually now the face of NBA, especially in Africa. In your opinion, how has the sports of basketball evolved, and what does it do for the continent of Africa?
That's actually one thing that amazes me about basketball. I mean, like you mentioned, soccer, we've known soccer through the years. Basketball now is so global. I mean, as a matter of fact, Giannis, when he won the championship, was like more of like the face of the NBA. There was this argument, for the sake that he's not an American, but just seeing how, their stories alone is what really amazes me. Stories, when I watch basketball, I like to go to the story of the player. What brought them to this level? And listening to, Giannis' story, where him and his brothers, his mom they were selling, food on the street and they had to wear one basketball shoes, the three of them. That alone, again, just inspires me more. As I listen to the story, Joel Embiid, seeing how he came here at the age of 13 in the United States, that's when he started playing basketball. And now, putting the hard work, the excellence, and he's at this level. I tell my children or every young man out there who aspire to play sports.
Oh, even women, because now, the NBA, WNBA is also becoming
exactly,
something huge.
Huge, absolutely. In any sport, whether it's basketball, it's football, tennis, I always try to bring them the story of these other Africans that have paved the way for them. How, their humble beginnings, and say, you all are even blessed. You are in this position where you have all of this at your disposal. Maximize the opportunity. And for parents, I tell, I think we have to give our children the opportunity. We have to be there, go to the games, support them. These children you see the amount of work this basketball or whatever sports, this professional sport, their parents put in for them to get in. It's a lot, and they are so disciplined. The amount of, when you see them on stage, and their lifestyle beyond that stage, it's amazing. And so for me, I think it's a whole world of opportunity for our children, and even for there's actually Basketball Africa now. That is also a huge outlet for Africans to take advantage of that opportunity and be whatever, not just in playing the sports, like you mentioned, Emil Duka. You can be the coach. You can be whatever you want to be.
You can be a scout.
So a scout, Masao Ujiri, the general manager. You can, children, when they want to play sport, we should encourage them because they don't have to play the sport at the end of the day. They can even be in sports medicine. There is a lot to give out there, and trust me, it's a good package too.
Thank you. And look, you see the likes of Hakeem Olajuwon, I believe 82, 83 straight from Nigeria, coming to the Rockets, winning a title. How has the sports of basketball evolved over time, and what benefit has that to do, or what benefit does that provide to the African continent?
I think if you look at just the, internationally, not just the African continent, but internationally, if you look at the last 4 MVPs of the NBA, they've all been international players. So I would say the NBA has done a pretty good job of making basketball attractive to everyone. And we're seeing a lot of, if you look at the draft, I think the last year's draft, over the last 5 years or so, you've seen a lot of African-born students or students or players of African descent make it, in the top tier draft of the NBA. So I think the basketball is going to make a lot of difference in Africa. It's going to change lives of so many families in Africa and create a lot of opportunity. And like my wife has been saying, it's not just about being a player. You could be so many other things. You could learn to be an assistant coach. In fact, for the Nigerian team, the assistant coach of the Warriors is the coach for the Nigerian team.
You're correct.
So there's a lot of, and you have this desire of American experts going into Africa to teach them the game of basketball. So I think there's a lot of promise for this game all over the world, in Asia, there are players from India right now in the NBA. There's so many of them. So I think basketball is going to change the world in some way in the future.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Please go nowhere. We'll be right back. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy this interlude as we get ready for the second round of our discussion here with the Akwes, Unduka, and Lillian on 2022 NBA Finals, Golden State versus the Boston Celtics. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Missions is a heartbeat of God.
Okay.
Any church or any parish that is not involved in missions is a dying church. Missions entail the totality of the proclamation of the gospel among people who have never heard it before, or people who heard it and disbelieved it. The laborers are few today, not because there's a shortage or a decline in world population, or the decline in the population of Christians. The laborers are few today, because of people's lack of perception. They don't seem to have an understanding of what's going on. The laborers are few because of lack of commitment. The laborers are few because of disobedience and lack of faith and enter manifestations.
To listen to the concluding part of this message and other inspiring messages, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at King's Palace TV and follow our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You are also invited to join us this Sunday virtually via YouTube and Facebook, or physically at 5371 East 5th Street, Katy, Texas 77493. Our first service, Hour of Power, is at 9 a.m. and our second service, Glory to Glory, is at 10 a.m. We are waiting to welcome you.
Welcome back to the Redeem Sports at the King's Palace TV here in Katy, Texas. Again, having a great time with friends of mine in the studio, Lillian and Unduka Ape, talking NBA Finals 2022, Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors. Now we're going to start getting technical now. Unduka, some basketball fans, including a lot of NBA analysts, they're saying that the Warriors had it very easy coming into the finals, right? Given the 4-1 win over the Dallas Mavericks. And this is, compared to other finals, I know in 2019 versus the Trailblazers, they had it very easy at 4-0, but in 2018 versus the Rockets took them to 7 games, 4-3. What do you think? Do you think they're having an easy run to the finals, or it's as competitive as any other team would have posed a challenge to them in the conference finals?
Okay, so that's something we've been hearing in all media outlets and all analysis, but I strongly disagree. If you look at the first round, they played against the MVP of the NBA, and everyone forgets that Steph Curry was injured. He was so injured he came off the bench for that series, and you had the third-year player, spearheading the offense of the team. And it took them losing the first game for Steph Curry to become a starter. So before that series started, every question we heard was, how are they going to stop Jokic? They did. And then we got to the second round, which was the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies, in fact, a lot of people, I think about 25% of the NBA world thought that the Memphis Grizzlies was going to beat the Warriors.
Correct.
Because the question was, the Warriors lost the series, the regular season series 3-1. And so the Warriors are going to have it difficult. And of course, Ja Morant got injured. But if you look at the season series, the Memphis Grizzlies won 20 of 25 games towards the end of the season without Ja Morant. In fact, their offensive rating and defensive rating was higher with Ja Morant off the floor than on the floor. So I believe that Ja Morant getting injured created a bigger problem for the Warriors than if Ja Morant was on the floor, because the last game Ja Morant played against the Warriors, they lost by 30 points after the Warriors had figured out what to do. Now let's go to the finals. The team that beat the best team in the NBA apparently was an easy slug for the Warriors. No, it wasn't, because everything we heard was, how are you going to stop Luka?
Correct.
Luka, in fact, there were people that thought the Mavs were going to beat the Warriors in 6. Some even said in 5. And so I do not think that it was as easy as people are saying. But you know what I believe about my team? When you are excellent, everything looks so simple.
But player basketball, as you know, is different from the regular season basketball.
It is. It requires experience. And the other thing is that you have two teams that are just committed to each other. You don't have, back-to-backs. So no team is more tired than the other team. And also, the coaches have enough time to scheme against the best player on the opposing team. And so in my opinion, they just were the better team. I think it was more experience. They had more experience than all their opponents, and they used their experience to their advantage. And I think we're going to see that again in these finals.
Lillian, what do you think? Do you think the Warriors had an easy run to the finals this time?
Well, I would say, not necessarily an easier run, but the fact that, one of the things my husband did mention was the fact that the Denver Nuggets, the very first series that the Golden State did play against, had two of their other stars that were injured. You know, and I'm sure that's what a lot of the NBA fans are alluding to. Could you imagine if Jamal Murray was there and all the other guys? How tough was that series going to be? And also thinking about, you know, the Grizzlies series. Now, you know, Ja Morant played the first two games, but Ja Morant got injured. However, you know, that's your best player. You can never discount your best player in a series. And like he rightly mentioned, it's a game for game. Last game can never be the same. Coaches, they make, you know, changes as the game progresses. So, you know, coming to Dallas, I mean, I would say Golden State was actually anticipating to play Phoenix Sun. It just happened that, you know, Dallas did win. Now, not to discredit Dallas, they did an amazing job. Overall, 3 years, I would say Golden State, you know, the experience is what got them there. The experience is they've been through all of those teams that they played against. I mean, they are way ahead of them in terms of experience, in terms of longevity, and all of that. So I still think they have an easier route, you know, with all of the injured superstars that did not play. But again, I will still give them the urge because, of course, the experience speaks for itself. Having Klay Thompson back make a huge difference, and you know, Warriors are just a first-class organization to play against. And
Awesome.
you know, Steve Kerr is a basketball, you know, I call it basketball savant. Even though, you know, it doesn't sometimes show that, but they have a great coach.
Awesome.
But I know Boston is ready.
So speaking of Boston being ready, you know, they gave Miami a run for their money, 4-3.
Yes.
They went to 7 games. And as opposed to the Golden State Warriors, do you think your team, the Boston Celtics, do you think they're ready enough? Because rest in basketball is very important. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, they went all the way to Game 7. They didn't have as much rest as the Golden State Warriors. Do you think that's going to make a difference? Is that going to work for the advantage, the fact that they're ready, they're pumped up,
Yes.
and there's no lag, versus having some good rest and, you know?
I mean, how much rest can you give those young guys? They played their last game on Sunday, and they had 3 days of rest. Tomorrow they have to play. I mean, when you're that hungry and you wanted this so bad, I think Boston wanted this moment so bad. They are young, and if you think about it, you know, they look forward to moments like this. This is the biggest stage in basketball, like we all know, and so the adrenaline and all of that going through. There's no such thing as rest. They are ready to go, and they, like you rightly said, they have gone through the grind. They have been battle tested. I mean, these guys, they went through the Brooklyn Nets with the superstar Kevin Durant. They went through the defending champion, the Milwaukee Bucks. That is not an easy thing. I know we can make the argument that, you know, one of their superstars were injured, but it wasn't an easy ride for them. Then going through a classic organization like Miami Heat, you know, and now they are in the finals. I have to really give credit to them. And of course, to Ime Udoka, their first time, you know, African-born head coach. He has done an amazing job with that team. So
Awesome. Udoka, what do you think? Now, the Celtics did not have as much rest as your team. Do you think that's that's going to work out to the advantage, or you think they're going to go down to your team because they didn't have much rest? Now, we're not talking about expertise. We're talking about just having physical rest, which obviously, as you know, is very important in sports.
I think for the Boston Celtics, just because they're a much younger team than the Golden State Warriors, the rest may not factor in as much. But for a team like the Warriors, I mean, their best players are 32 years and above. They actually wanted to make sure they got about a week of rest because they know that their bodies needed. They're aging players. And so I think for the Boston Celtics, I mean, Jason Tatum is like 22 or 23. Jaylen Brown is 23 or 24, and so on and so forth. So I don't think rest is that big of a deal for them. The only thing that I think could be a detriment for the Boston Celtics right now is that a lot of their good players have some kind of injury. You know, Jason Tatum has a shoulder injury.
Yep.
Robert Williams, their center, has a knee injury. And I think even Marcus Smart also has a knee injury. So the question is, were the 3 or 4 days they got off enough for their bodies to recover? Because Golden State is going to run them really hard. And can they keep up with that speed? And that's the only thing I can think of.
As you've heard, rest to a certain extent is important, but in playoff basketballs, especially in the finals, nobody cares about rest. You just want to get into the grind and get it done and, win the championship. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel and other social media platforms, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and other social media platforms. We'll be right back. I'm still here talking playoffs basketball finals, NBA Finals 2022 between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. We'll be right back. Go nowhere.
In a lifetime, a profit and loss account is maintained for everyone with God. And by the time the account is settled and balanced, some will end up in losses and some in profit. You have been registered. A business name been registered for you. That this is my child, Tunde Badru Soul Winning Incorporated. And the day that business name was registered for soul winning, a profit and loss account has been opened. And it's not different for you. Because when he was ministering to the woman by the well, she said, my food, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and finish it. So that assignment is that of soul winning, that of evangelism.
To listen to the concluding part of this message and other inspiring messages, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at King's Palace TV and follow our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You are also invited to join us this Sunday virtually via YouTube and Facebook, or physically at 5371 East 5th Street, Katy, Texas 77493. Our first service, Hour of Power, is at 9 a.m. and our second service, Glory to Glory, is at 10 a.m. We are waiting to welcome you.
Welcome back to the Redeem Sports at the King's Palace TV here in our studios in Katy, Texas. I'm talking NBA 2022 Finals game, Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors, game 1, and I have Lillian and Undaka Akwe in the house. It's been an amazing time. Lillian, I'm going to ask you this question. You're a huge Celtics fan. You know, the Boston Celtics have a huge tradition, a long tradition of history of winning championships,
Celtics
like
pride.
the Lakers as well. So far, they have 17 championships to their belt. But the Golden State Warriors have only 6 championships to their belt. Who do you think is a lot more hungry? Who's more hungry for the next championship that will be decided, hopefully, in 7 games?
Right.
Who do you think is more hungry?
That's a tough one, actually, Major. You know why? Because you have 2 teams, one that is making it to the NBA Finals for their first time, irrespective of the 17 championship. I'm talking about Boston Celtics.
Correct.
Now, none of these players have ever been to the NBA Finals. So, speaking about hungry, they are hungry. I mean, they want this so bad. And of course, they are competing with the Lakers. The Lakers have, like you rightly mentioned, have 16. And they don't want Lakers to... There's always been this Lakers-Celtics rivalry throughout the years. And if they can pile up more championship and, you know, of course, be ahead of the Lakers,
They have bragging rights.
Correct, they have bragging rights. So with that, I would say Boston, they are super hungry. You have young guys that want to win so bad. Now on the Golden State Warriors side, of course they're hungry because we're talking about legacy, Steph Curry's legacy. People have, you know, the media, not just the media, of course, you know, everywhere people talk about Golden State, you know, well, Kevin Durant came in and gave them 2 championships. Now Kevin Durant is going to want to see what these guys are going to do. So these guys, they feel like, I don't want to say they feel like they have something to prove, but I believe internally within them, if they can win this championship without the Kevin Durants, that would, you know, cement some legacies, especially with Steph's legacy, to my opinion. And just, it will be another joy for them to, you know, the story behind Clay coming back and winning a championship. So I know, I would say both teams are hungry, you know, based on the reasons I've mentioned. So I won't sit here and really predict which one is more hungry. They are all like ready for this championship. So that's why 7-game series. I see that happening.
Interesting. Undaka, no one goes to the conference finals, let alone the NBA finals, without being hungry. And you don't go there to lose.
Right.
In your opinion, is your Warriors team a lot more hungrier than the Celtics team, or you think they're both as hungry as it could get?
I think the Warriors are hungrier because the media has done a pretty good job of making everyone believe that everything the Warriors have accomplished was a fluke. First of all, in 2015 when they won, there was no Kevin Love, there was no Kyrie Irving. They should have won that game anyway.
Yeah.
And then when they won the championship, Steph Curry wasn't given the MVP, it was given to Andre Iguodala, who came off the bench. Then in 2016, as Stephen A. Smith will say, the NBA gave LeBron a stimulus package by suspending Draymond Green. And the game that he was suspended for, Iguodala got injured, Bogut got injured, and Steph Curry actually was playing with a sprained MCL in that series. And so they lost. Then, July 4th of 2016, Kevin Durant decides to come to the Warriors. And everyone was like, it's a foregone conclusion, blah, blah, blah. And so everything about what they accomplished was because of Kevin Durant. And after Kevin Durant left in 2019 and Klay Thompson got injured, also in the same year, I believe their next season, they only won 15 games. They were the worst team in the NBA. And the story all over the place was, Steph Curry is never going to win again. Then he needs to get traded and go someplace else because the Warriors are done. The dynasty is over. And then 2021-22 season comes along, and they start the season 18-2 with a third-year player, Jordan Poole.
Yep.
And now the story now is that if they win, Jordan Poole should be the MVP. That's what some of the analysts are saying. So I believe this one, Steph Curry wants it badly because everyone has been saying he doesn't belong in the top tier of NBA players of all time simply because he doesn't have a playoff MVP. So trust me on this one, that whole team is dedicated to making sure he wins that MVP. And I think they're the hungrier team. Boston is still young. I think they're going to make a lot of mistakes because people focus on the fact that they're this great defensive team, but they struggled against Miami Heat with one player that could play offense. Golden State has 5 that will play offense. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the prediction time. I'll tell you what I feel.
Hungary doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they were not. That was a Miami Heat team. Don't forget, they are a very defensive team. So, I mean, you can be hungry for something, but the other team is also hungry. So you have to realize that it's two teams that won this championship. It means a lot to both teams.
But how can
I know that the Boston Celtics, those guys in the locker room, people have been discrediting them to saying that they are young. They hear the noise. They hear the noise, so they are ready. They are ready to make sure that Golden State work hard.
No, of course, it's not going to be a cakewalk, I mean, it's the finals. These are the best 2 teams in the NBA. Last 2 teams standing. It's not going to be a cakewalk, but I think there is a level of urgency. It's kind of like if you feel like, okay, I'm working for this organization and I have a year to retire and I got to do something to cement my legacy in the company, the level of urgency you have is going to be different from some guy who's just maybe 10 years in and has got another 20 years to figure this out.
Yeah, but on the flip side, though, do you know? I'm sure you appreciate how difficult it is to get to the NBA Finals.
Of course,
exactly.
Of course.
It's very difficult.
It's difficult, and I just...
Considering how they have gone through, the route that they have gone through in the Eastern Conference, I honestly
let me tell you, because I'm very big in the social media, Warriors fans social media. They were praying for Miami Heat.
Of course, because Miami is easier.
So if
Miami is easier defensively.
That's what I'm trying to say. Miami Heat would have been a cakewalk for the Warriors, and Boston, they took Boston to 7. Yeah. So it's not Boston. I get it. Boston is a really good defensive team, but you got to put the ball in the basket.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't forget that Boston almost lost a 17-point lead in 3 minutes, in the last 3 minutes of the game.
I agree, but
If
what
that
we
was the
always
Warriors, that was the Warriors on the floor, that would be a blowout.
There's one policy about one of the greatest coach of all time, to my opinion, Greg Popovich.
Yep.
And he always says defense wins championship. So I'm very interested to see how the Boston Celtics, their defense actually propel them. When you have a better defense, of course, it translates to an easier offense. Now, I know Golden State is ready offensively to overwhelm the Celtics, but you have versatile bigs. You have guys that are ready to go through the grind. The defensive player of the year is on the Boston side. So these guys are ready for the Golden State Warriors.
You actually took my next question. And like she said, the great Pop says, defense wins games. We know that the Celtics were the first in defense, and the Golden State Warriors were the second in the regular season. Offensively, the Celtics were the 7th, the Golden State were number 17. But in the playoffs, they were both tied offensively. Do you think, look at that, defense will win this championship, or the offense of the Splash Brothers will decide who wins this championship?
I will never go against Pop.
Greg Pop.
So I know that defense will win eventually, but here's the thing that everyone forgets. Draymond Green was the runaway defensive player of the year before he got injured.
Correct.
Draymond Green, I listened to his podcast this morning. He said, I'm on the top of my defensive superpowers right now. I think he's ready. He is ready. So defense will definitely win, but I will still say that if you look at the matchups, the type of players that, the type of teams that Boston played in the playoffs versus the type of teams that that Warriors played in the playoffs, Boston played teams that were very decent defensively, but were horrible offensively. Golden State played teams that were mediocre or average defensively, but were explosive offensively. So what Golden State has been able to show is that they can really, if Boston cannot score, Golden State will wipe them off that court.
But Lillian, given the fact that they're both great defensive teams.
Correct. They are both great defensive teams, and I can't say that, look at what the Mavericks, they could barely score.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I would not say very easy. I mean, even as a non-coach, I could coach the Golden State Warriors to beat the Mavericks. Make sure you swam looker, force them to shoot. The only thing was them to shoot. They have wide open threes. You saw how the one game that they won, they made threes and they just wiped out the Golden State out of the building. So that tells me, but for Boston, they don't have to do that. You don't have to double team nobody. Nobody have to double team. They single-handedly, one person can defend step. Of course, at some point, they're going to have to play swarming defense, but they have everything. Mavericks didn't have a rim protector. You have Boston Celtics, they have rim protection. They have everything it takes. Now, scoring would not be easy, I agree with him. But when you have a very defensive team, you'll force Steph Curry to play defense. That's the key. Force him to play defense, force the other guys to play defense, wear them out, and then, of course, by the end of the game, you realize that, when of course, they have experience. I will give it to them.
But if you force Curry to play defense, you still have Draymond Green. You still have
Draymond Green.
Because he plays some decent offense as well. If you don't have Curry playing, if you have Curry playing defense, then you have what's his name playing offense.
Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson playing offense. Yes, but Draymond Green. Golden State, they always fall into the habit of playing small ball, and guess what that puts them into? Put them into foul trouble. And if Draymond Green gets into foul trouble, that's even better for Boston. He has to go sit down, and one of the things they can make him get is more technical fouls. When he picks up more technical fouls, that's even, of course, he can rout the crowd, but if he has to get out of the game, that's a lot of defensive makeup for Golden State to do. So Draymond Green have to be very careful. That's my advice for him. If he's listening to me right now, Draymond Green. But I would say in all, Boston has what it takes.
So there's this misconception that Steph Curry is not that good of a defender. Funny thing, I was listening to, of course, in my Warrior Spaces, and they put out a stat from the first 3 series so far. Steph Curry defending a player, any player that Steph Curry defended, they shot 38.5% from the floor. Draymond Green was 38.9.
Which of the players are we talking about?
That was my next question.
It depends on the player you are defending. Now, this is not to discredit Steph Curry as a non-defender, but which of the players, because it depends on what player he's defending.
Steph Curry was Steph Curry took on Luka.
Okay.
No, he did a good job with
Yeah, he took on Luka.
But
at some point, he took on the best scoring person, other than, he didn't take on Jokic, of course, but the best scoring guard on the Nuggets. Steph Curry defended him. And in Memphis, he defended Ja Morant, he defended Dylan Brooks, and he also defended Desmond Bain. All that is factored in, and he was the best defensive player, stats-wise, on the Warriors for the first 3 series. So there's this misconception that Steph Curry is this horrible defender. He's actually a person that is committed to defense.
Single-handed defense or help defense, because the majority of the time, most of those defense that he did work hard to, of course, stop the player was help defense. Single-handedly, I watched that game too, and I did not see that. But again, this is to be seen on, like you rightly mentioned, every series is different. Every, game is different. And I'm sure, what I would say in this game is going to come down to the basketball coaches, both coaches making in-game decisions. And I know, I'll let you, continue, but I think the in-game decisions, which Steve Kerr has an edge into it, but I'm impressed. I'm really looking forward to see what Ime Udoka will do, in this series.
I am looking forward to that as well. Hey guys, it's been an amazing time here at the Redeem Sports at Kings Palace TV, talking defense versus offense. Which of both of them wins games, and I think it's a blend of both based on what we've talked about today. Please go nowhere, sit back, relax. We'll be right back as you listen to the short interlude. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel and all the social media platforms, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also the like button, and we'll be back with you shortly. Go nowhere, we'll be right back.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, it is in the nature of man to seek connection to get by in life. Everyone is looking for one connection or the other. It's just in the nature of man to be able. If man connects you without God being the one moving the man, you can be easily disconnected. That's why I want to say to you, don't seek human connection. Rather seek divine connection, and God shall raise people for your connection. Naomi was divine connection between Ruth and Boaz. God is always orchestrating connections. Every divine connection has a divine agenda. If God is the one making the connection, he has an end in mind.
To listen to the concluding part of this message and other inspiring messages, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Kings Palace TV and follow our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You are also invited to join us this Sunday virtually via YouTube and Facebook, or physically at 5371 East 5th Street, Katy, Texas 77493. Our first service, Hour of Power, is at 9 a.m. and our second service, Glory to Glory, is at 10 a.m. We are waiting to welcome you.
Welcome back, viewers, to the Redeem Sports at the Kings Palace TV here in Katy, Texas. Our studios here in Katy, Texas. We're talking NBA 2022 Finals, the Golden State Warriors versus the Boston Celtics. I have Unduka and Lillian Akwe talking NBA Finals basketball. Please go ahead and provide your comments, as we talk, as we analyze Game 1, which is happening very soon. Let us know what you think. Let us know, call the shots. Tell us if we're going to Game 7 or if this is going to be over in 5 games or 6 games or whatever number of games you think this is going to be over in. We're going to talk about the coaches, and I'm going to ask Unduka this question. You have a seasoned coach / player like Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors. He's won 8 championships. He won 3 with the Chicago Bulls in the Jordan era. He won 2 as a player in the Spurs under Pop, and he's won 3 with as a coach. Versus Ime Udoka, who's actually a Nigerian of Nigerian descent. The first time in the NBA Finals with the Boston Celtics. Who do you think have a lot more advantage? Do you think Steve Kerr is more at an advantaged position because of his history of winning championship, both as a player and as a coach, or you think Ime Udoka actually is the underdog here, and that will propel him to winning the championship?
Right now, I think Steve Kerr has the edge, not just because of his experience, but he also has players with the finals experience. In fact, I think there was a number that came out a few days ago, that between both teams, they have 123 games of finals experience, and all of that is on the Warriors. And Steve Kerr has a lot of luxuries because he has some players on his team that are going to be on the floor that actually can play the role of a coach while the game is going on. So that Draymond Green or Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, he does some things. If the game isn't going well, he'll get a technical to get the team all fired up. So I think even just looking at the game, the adjustments. I was listening to one of the sports analysis shows, and everyone was like, man, they did not believe Steve Kerr had this type of in-game adjustment excellence in him as he has done these playoffs. And you could even tell the difference when Steve Kerr was off the team because they got blown up by 55 points, and everyone was wondering, well, how is it possible that a team that has Steph, Clay, and Drake can get blown up by 55 points? It tells you the importance of the coach that can make those in-game adjustments while the game is going on. So I would say he has the edge, he has the experience, he has the mentorship. I mean, he's been coached by Phil Jackson, he's been coached by Popovich, and so all of those experiences that he got under those coaches, he's bringing in as a coach, and of course adding his own, flavor to it. So I think he's probably going to have the edge.
Awesome. Lillian, does Steve Kerr's championship pedigree serve as an advantage over Ime Udoka, who is a first-time, a newbie, and possibly some folks have called him the underdog?
I mean, in this one, I'll have to agree with my husband,
You're not supposed to agree with him.
I mean, the resume speaks for itself. Steve Kerr, is, and I call him a basketball savant, not just because of his number. The in-game decisions that he's made this time around, trust me, I'm one of those fans that I sit and I watch the game from a coach perspective. Like he said, I'll call those plays, and sometimes in the regular season, Steve Kerr will do. He takes so many risks, and I'll be shouting at the screen. I'll be like, what is going on? Could you imagine? I mean, that's exactly that who Steve Kerr is, But these playoffs, he has been excellent on the point, and it speaks to the championship that he's had. Of course, the one thing we all need to remember is both coaches, they played under Greg Popovich.
Yes.
Ime Udoka played under Greg Popovich as well as Steve Kerr. So the one thing I know is both of them have learned very well. And I've seen some of them, both of them calling their mentor, Greg Popovich getting some home. But I think Steve Kerr has an advantage here. But Ime Udoka, it's like they say, Nigeria they come last. In this case, I see him, want to, prove everybody wrong. I see him, Boston Celtics has their former coach, who is now the president of the organization, also there. Now, he's not going to be there coaching, but I think he has a lot of mentorship. He has an organization that is built around him to propel him to succeed. So he has, a chip on his shoulder right there to, prove some people wrong.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. Sometimes it does help to have home court advantage, right?
Right.
And so 53 of the 74 teams with home court advantage in the NBA Finals went on to win the championship. Yes. Of the 19 games in 17, of the 19 games, game sevens, right, in the finals history, The home team have won 15 times, right? So of 19 games,
Right.
of game sevens, the home team have won 15 times. Do you think that a home court advantage in the finals actually is truly an advantage, or it's just a facade because everybody comes and they dug it out in the
Right,
finals?
right. I would say it's an advantage, you know, and knowing that I've never been in the Golden State Arena, but just from watching, you know, that arena is one of the loudest, and
Oh yeah,
everybody
they're,
has said
they're
it.
fired up.
It's the loudest arena to play in. But
Even the
guess
owner,
what?
you can tell from the owner.
I mean, like, he is always fired up. But think about it. Look at Boston. Boston actually, this playoff, they are 7-4. They have won more games on the road than at home. You know, so that speaks to the fact that they are ready for this Golden State Warriors. They are ready. They are not shy of of course, the home court advantage or whatever. I mean, they have done extremely well playing on the road. So playing in Golden State this time around, I don't think that will be a showstopper for them.
Awesome.
They are ready.
Unuka, does home court advantage mean anything to either teams?
It could. Let's not forget that in 2016, the Warriors lost at home in Game 7. So home court advantage does have a benefit, but these Warriors of 2021-22 season have not lost any playoff games at home so far. And then Boston, like my wife has said, has won a lot of games on the road. So this is going to be a test of how viable that home court that Golden State Warriors has, how viable it is. I mean, I think if you look at Miami, for example, Miami actually won more games on the road than at home because they don't really have a true home court. Their fans are not as fired up. The Warriors fans are almost like lunatics. Like, they are crazy. They are crazy about their team, and they will do everything possible to make it uncomfortable for the visiting team.
Yeah, but that's why the Celtics, we really want to go and prove them wrong.
Right, exactly.
Possibly, I doubt that they can do it.
I mean, I am still to see, of course, the first two games, you know, is going to be played in the Golden State Warriors. I'm really, really, really excited and looking forward to game one especially. Those first two games will tell. The only down part I would say for Boston in this regard is the basketball decisions that the players make. The only downfall I see, which I'm not going to say downfall, but it's something that I've noticed with them. You know, they don't have a true point guard. And for that reason, if Golden State has a way of, you know, making it tough for Tatum to make decisions, then, you know, that might be a little hindrance right there. But if they come in from the very get-go, play hard-nosed defense like I've seen them do it, and, you know, of course, it's, you know, play as if, you know, this is the Boston pride. I don't see the crowd, you know, stopping them anyhow.
So, you know, when you talk about hard-nosed defense, I think this Boston hard-nosed defense that we keep talking about,
yes,
we need to put it in context. Boston is a very good defensive team, no doubt.
No doubt.
But Miami should never be used as a barometer for measuring how well they can play defense, because there's only one player on Miami that can handle the ball. And, I mean, there are two. Kyle Lowry was out most of the series, and the only other person is Jimmy Butler. Every other person touches the ball like it's like hot coal. They don't want to deal with it. But on the Warriors, you got Jordan Poole, you got Draymond Green, you got Gary Payton is coming back, and then you also got Steph Curry. Those are guys that can really do things with the ball.
Yes, but defense in this respect is not just, defense comes with the size, the versatility. I mean, like, those guys can switch 1-2-5
Yep.
easily. I mean, you have our Horford can guard Steph Curry. You know, you put, it doesn't matter who is there can guard, and they don't get, of course, the only guy that cannot guard Steph Curry will be the Robert Williams guy. Of course, that is something to watch out for. They might have to take him out at some point of the game because Golden State will use that as their bread and butter to take him out of the game. So the defenses, they don't need help. They don't need help defense. Unlike Golden State, where, of course, there will be a time where you need help defense. There's no, Andrew Wiggins is not going to be in the game all the time. So at some point, you know, he's going to have to go out. Who's going to guard Tatum?
But you're forgetting something very important about Al Horford. Al Horford cannot play defense when there's drop coverage. If they bring him out to the three-point line, the paint is going to be open. And there's nobody, there are two people on the team that would mess with you if you leave the paint open, Jordan Poole and Steph Curry. In fact, I think Jordan Poole is even better right now.
To cover up very well. I've watched the series. You know, I see a lot of things that they did, even with the Milwaukee series. So it's interesting to see how they make up. Like
Milwaukee has only one ball handler, though. Milwaukee has one ball handler. It is Jrue Holiday.
Right.
It was the only ball handler they had that Milwaukee has. If you go to Miami Heat, they only have two ball handlers. One was always injured. In fact, the second one was injured the last 3 games.
The key to this series will always be, you know, coming back to the coaches, what decisions they make as the game progresses. And I'm curious to really see
Incur with trust.
Because I know that did you watch the Eastern Conference Finals? There was like the first 4 games were all blowouts. I'm like, what kind of game is this where one team win by 20 points? I did not like that. I want to see, you know, some level of competition. Yes,
no, I don't want competition. I want blowouts. Like I want to see like 50-point blowouts.
That's what I'm talking about. Both teams just, you know, got blowouts so easily. It just tells me, you know, not that the coaches were not great, but I didn't see in-game adjustments. I didn't see, you know, they easily gave up. You know, I need to see some, you know, players, like you said, in Golden State has that edge because you have, player coaches in there that are going to do that. I'm curious to see what Boston does and come in and say, you know what, I'm not just going to let Golden State blow me out in the second quarter.
I'm looking forward to Steve Kerr employing a box and one on Jason Tatum. Let's see what decisions he makes.
Well, box and one, yes. Meanwhile, it works, but you know, not for so long. If Boston's offense is going, that will make Golden State stop.
I think we all want to see, and we all need to see some competitiveness in this 2022 NBA Finals. That's why we're in the finals. That's why you battle all those teams to get to the finals. No one wants to see a walkthrough or walkover.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back. Please go nowhere as we're talking to Lillian and Unduka Akwe, 2022 NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors. Is it going to be offense versus defense? When we come back, we're going to be making predictions. This is the part that I like the most, right? We're going to be calling the shots and calling the games and seeing who wins in what number of games. Please go nowhere. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and other social media platforms. We'll be right back.
Due to the COVID pandemic, the Maracana Sports Center have been put on hold, but now we are back. Our Sports Outreach Church, the Maracana Sports Center, resumes on Sunday 6th of February 2022 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Maracana Sports Center is our sports outreach church reaching out to the community fellowshipping through sports and the Word of God. Sports service holds every Sunday at 6 p.m. on the TKP Sports Arena. So we are inviting men, women, boys and girls across all ages to come and hang out and play all sporting activities while connecting with friends and families. Join us starting February 6, 2022. For more information, please call Coach Addy at 832-731-7714.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Redeem Sports at the King's Palace TV. We're talking NBA 2022 Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. This is my favorite part of the show, where we get to predict who wins and who takes it all. Lillian, I'm going to start with you. 4 questions. What are your predictions for Game 1, which is happening very soon? How many games do you see the series going? Who's the X Factor player for your team? And who wins it all?
I would say, you know, that's a tough one to measure. You know why? Because, I mean, looking at everything that Golden State brings, home court advantage, experience, and all of that, I expect them to win. I mean, if Golden State does not win Game 1, that's a big, big problem.
So you're going against your team?
I mean, I'm not necessarily going against my team. I'm saying that Golden State is they're like not necessarily destined to win Game 1, but they have to, because that's losing home court advantage right there once they lose Game 1. So I expect Boston to come in and put in a very, very, you know, come in with their grind, work extremely hard. I don't see a blowout. I don't want to see a blowout, and I expect, and I know that Boston Celtics are going to come in, you know, make sure that game doesn't, you know, go down to the wire. Like I said, you know, with the resume on Golden State, they should win Game 1.
Okay.
But if whatever happens, they don't win Game 1, then I'm gonna be crossing my hood and popping my popcorn.
Let's say we give Game 1 to the Warriors. And how many games do we see in this series?
I say going to a 7-game series.
7-game series.
It is going to a 7-game series just because, you know, this is the NBA final, like I mentioned before, the biggest stage of basketball. The Boston Celtics, they're not scared. These guys, and they know that, you know, they know what they're capable of doing. They've gone through, like I said, some really tough teams, really tough teams in the Eastern Conference. So they know that Golden State have the edge. They've heard all the noise, and they are ready. They are ready for this moment.
Who is your X Factor player? One player.
One player for me will be Grant Williams. You know, because I know what Jason Tatum is gonna do. I know what, you know, Jaylen Brown and all those guys could do. But if Grant Williams can make those wide open shot, you know, and that was what happened with the Dallas Mavericks series. Those guys making their shots. If he can make those shots, that would actually take away. It would open up for Jason Tatum to penetrate, to do a lot of things that he could do. But if they're not making their shots, that helps Golden State defense.
Who wins it all?
That's a tough one. It's hard to bet against the Golden State. It's hard to bet against. Steph still remains one of my favorite guys. Really hard to bet against Golden State. I'm gonna wait to see what game 1 and 2.
You can't wait to see what game 1 and 2.
I mean,
the outcome of game 1 and 2. You gotta tell us who wins it all. Is it your team, the Celtics, or his team, the Warriors?
I expect the Golden State to win, but I know that, you know, I have faith in Boston.
Okay.
To take this series, but I expect Golden State to win.
Unduka, this should be very easy for you. Your wife has said she's given your team game 1. She thinks it's going to be a dog eat dog game, that 7 series game, and she thinks Grant Williams is going to be the difference maker for her team, but ultimately she gives it to your team. Are you going to give it to her team to win the championship?
Never.
So the question is, what are your predictions for game 1? How many games do you see the series going? Who is actually the playmaker, the difference maker here on your team, and who wins it all?
Game 1, I see probably a 15-point victory for the Warriors.
Ooh. That's a bold statement.
And that's because the nerves of playing in the finals, I don't think the Celtics understand what that is. And the Warriors have the pedigree to deal with that type of those type of nerves and all the other chaos, like they call it the finals chaos. There's a lot of chaos, and you know, I'm just hoping that we get good officials in this series that would not encourage Marcus Smart to flop all over the place. Because if we
you
get
have some floppers, the Warriors as well.
No, the Warriors don't flop. They don't flop because they don't get calls anyway when they flop, so they just don't flop. But if we can get those type of officials, I can see the Celtics having a really rough time. And that's probably one of the reasons why they struggled in Game 7, because Scott Foster doesn't do flopping. Yeah. And so he wasn't giving Marcus Smart all those fouls.
Foster may not be officiating that.
He is actually one of the officials. And how many games? You know, just because I respect the Celtics, my heart tells me 5, but because I respect them, I think it'll go 6. I'll say Warriors will take it in 6. And who's our X factor? I have 2.
No, you got to give us 1.
I'll tell you, I have 1 on offense and 1 on defense. Andrew Wiggins is the X factor on defense, and Klay Thompson is the X factor on offense. If Andrew Wiggins can do what he did to Luka, to Jason Tatum.
You're not calling Steph as the X factor for offense.
Steph is always going to be Steph. He does beautiful things on the court, and I expect him to continue to do it. That stuff they did to Kevin Durant, you know, boxing one. Steph is used to that stuff. He can figure out how to counter it, and so I don't see him as an X factor. Draymond Green also, I don't see him as an X factor because they will do what they do. But Klay Thompson, because of his injury and all of that coming back, his offense has been kind of inconsistent. Yeah. So that may be an X factor there. And then Andrew Wiggins and what he's done to every superstar so far. I mean, Andrew Wiggins put Ja Morant in a blender. And he made Lucas.
You have to realize it's not just Jason Tatum, right? the beauty about the Boston Celtics is if you try to defend Jason Tatum, you have a Jaylen Brown. You have who is going to stop Jaylen Brown? Who's going to stop the other guys? Of course, they're gonna make sure that they find another guy that's gonna help dominate the game. So you just can't say. Of course, it was easy to stop Luka or Ja Morant and have the other guys make the other guys beat you. But that's not gonna be the
don't
case
forget
for
that when the Miami Heat deployed zone and box and one on Jason Tatum, he turned over the ball. And unfortunately for them, Miami doesn't know what it means. They couldn't even throw a ball in the ocean. But you're going to have on the other end of that ball that is a turnover, that is a live turnover, is going to be Draymond Green going there, Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, or Wiggins. It's not going to be. What's that?
That is diving like that guy can dive all over the place. So
don't forget that a lot of the starters on the Miami team were not even drafted. They got them from the G League. They did. So this is a different ball game that we're dealing with. So I think some of my Warriors fans are telling me Warriors in 4. I respect Celtics. I say Celtics are going to go down in 6.
Who wins it all?
Oh, Warriors. And Steph Curry is going to be playoff MVP.
Who's your MVP for the playoff?
Oh, this is where he gets me because of course he's predicting Warriors.
Well, you also predicted the Warriors, so
Steph, it'll be good to see Steph win the MVP because that, like I said, is gonna just add up to his legacy, and the top 10, player all time, that no question. It puts Steph Curry right there on the map. So,
awesome.
Not that, not to discourage, he's already a great player, but it's just going to be good to see Steph wins and finals MVP.
Awesome. So game 1 is about to start between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors, and we've been talking some good finals NBA rivalry here in the Akwe family, Lillian versus her husband, Mbuka. One final question. I need some honesty here. Who makes dinner tonight?
Of course.
Given the rivalry in the house.
I'm going to have Anastasia make dinner.
Guys, it's been
that way nobody has to do.
Are you ordering pizza, or she's cooking, or you cooking, or?
Actually, whenever the Warriors are playing, I don't eat until the game is over.
Oh,
that's a diehard fan right there.
Like he's glued. Even more than me, that is a super fan. So.
Guys, it's been an amazing time discussing NBA Finals with these two wonderful friends of mine. The game begins shortly. Please, like they've both said, encourage your young adults, encourage your youth to actually get into sports. It's healthy. It's something that, the game of basketball especially has become so global that, it just has no limits. They call it basketball without borders. Please do enjoy your time as you watch the NBA Finals Game 1 in Golden State. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all the social media platforms. Remember, you can be whoever you want to be. Work hard, keep the faith, keep your goal in sight, and you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time as you enjoy Game 1 of the NBA 2022 Finals. We hope to catch you soon. Again, leave your comments below. We want to know who you think is going to win the NBA Finals, especially Game 1. Thank you very much for coming, Lillian. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Dimenji.
It's been fun, and I hope to see you guys shortly as we continue in this series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Enjoy the game, folks.
Looking forward to the parade.
Yes. In Boston or in Golden State.
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
Due to the COVID pandemic, the Maracana Sports Center have been put on hold, but now we are back. Our sports outreach church, the Maracana Sports Center, resumes on Sunday 6th of February 2022 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Maracana Sports Center is our sports outreach church reaching out to the community fellowshipping through sports and the Word of God. Sports service holds every Sunday at 6 p.m. on the TKP Sports Arena. So we are inviting men, women, boys and girls across all ages to come and hang out and play all sporting activities while connecting with friends and families. Join us starting February 6, 2022. For more information, please call Coach Addy at 832-731-7714.